Well, I mean, the developer that's going to work on it is not going to be the developer for life. So, you know, you have to think about the next team that's going to take over your project.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to be able to look at it. So
Documentation also works for the current developer too. If they have to go back to something they
never
built like
remember.
a year ago.
Exactly.
I don't remember what I did a year ago.
I at home, for my code lab, I have this Raspberry Pi in my code.
Yeah, you document.
And every time I look at it 2 months after, I'm like, what did I do that?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're talking about like 300 lines of code. That's all. You know, and I keep, why did I do that? You know?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
There's different type of documentation.
Yeah.
You know, like at first, like if you were talking about technical debt earlier, you know, like if you're cleaning your code after yourself, like the Boy Scouts, you know, you go in the forest, you get out all the trash and bring it back with you. Don't stay there. You know? Like if the code that developer is making, putting some comments, sometimes he's taking some shortcut, but those shortcut he is explaining why he's doing that. No, like basic, like the variable names are doing fine, like are named fine and everything. It's a matter of like, if the code is mostly clean, it's easier. It takes less time to document because like the code is readable. It can be understood by people. It's a matter of balance, you know. Like it's just like if you take just 5% or 10% of your time just to document stuff and making sure stuff is understandable and clean, just like that's already so much more than 90% of the project, you know, like, and just so the next dev engineer yourself, you go in there just like, okay, this for what, all the reasons.
In that case, it should be organic. As you're writing the code, you're documenting along with it, because if you finish writing the code, you say you want to go back to document, that's when there's like, it becomes an effort. Like if you write a method and at the same time you just put in the documentation what the method is doing and simple like things like that, that would it would speed up. That it goes hand in hand with the development as well.
Anytime I've seen a disastrous project, it's because there's no documentation,
Exactly.
there's no comments,
So that means this person, this time, did not value documentation.
or they didn't know.
Or they didn't know.
Yeah, like if you're not, if you're a regular non-developer, hiring a developer.
But it's like habits, you know, like it's like if you wake up in the morning and like you go to the gym, you eat well, you drink, you know, like it's I would say if you develop, it's all that kind of stuff. It's just like if you try to keep technical debt not too high, you know, like try to keep things clean, the code is clean, you know, trying to communication is good with everybody, you know. And then you push a feature like we said earlier, like we do a postmortem. But that postmortem is documentation too, you know, like it's what happened with that, you know, learning from those projects. I mean, it should grow over time as you do things, I would say, right in a way, you know. Sure, if you try to write a book, 2,000 pages of documentation, I mean, just like, that's another issue. But like, if you try to do things right and just like legit, you need documentation, but it's not like you're just trying to find a balance. And if you do a project clean, that documentation will create by itself, you know, because the developer is going to have the 2 hours just like how to set up the project, basically, how that database is working, like the database schematic, for example, stuff like that. Just have time to do that.
The thing I wanted to add about documentation is, it's like the code refactoring. It's not something you make at first and you forget forever. You need to go back into your documentation and update it. If you do not do that, your documentation becomes useless, and you're right, there's no value and you're spending that money for no reason.
Oh, so not only is documentation important, but updating your documentation is important.
Of course. And a lot of people do not.
Yeah.
That is a challenging part of development, because not all devs think about going back in documentation and updating the documentation.
And just to add on that, it's not exactly documentation, but also like, especially for Laravel development, what they do is that you have what is known as a migration script. Essentially what it does is it builds your database. Unfortunately, when most of the project is on production already, during the development time, the developers are meticulous in getting the migration script working, because of course they need it to run under production, but as soon as the project is set up, that's it. So and then you have cases where other developers go into the code base, they do the work, they add new fields into the database, they do a lot of things, but they don't update the migration script.
You know, we should make an infographic or something that shows the cycle of development at the base, you know, just a basic one, saying that, okay, feature development, refactoring, documentation, and just loop that. Because that's the reality. After each big piece of code, you have to review the code, you have to review your documentation. Am I still up to date? Sometimes some URL and password changes, and you do not update this, then it's obsolete.